What is going on, guys and girls? How are you doing today? Single roleplay here once again. Today I want to show you the build that I played as my league starter in a 3.8 Blight League, and this is a GLACIAL CASCADE Saboteur, one of the strongest single target builds I've ever played in this game, and I've played quite a lot of builds, I can tell you. And overall the build is a huge fucking success. I reached all the goals within this build, got all the gear that I needed to really push it to the absolute maximum potential, and this is one I want to show you. But before we go further into the build itself, I want to talk a little about the mines and traps, the difference between them, and what has changed to the mine mechanics in 3.8, because it was a pretty huge rework to the mine system, fundamental things, as well as to support gems, new mine skills and all that shit. And if you probably never played mines or traps, or just played mines a long time ago and just don't really bother or didn't really know what has changed so far, I will give you just a brief summary on the meta. So let's get going. Before we go further into the video, I would like to stop for a second and thank my Patreon supporters and Twitch subscribers. You guys have no fucking idea how much I'm thankful for you. If you just stop for a second and put likes on this video and share it with your friends, it will be already an insane amount of support, and I will be forever grateful to every one of you. Thank you so much, and remember,
you, yes you, are making a difference.
The first thing that I need to understand is the difference between mines and traps in general. So in the past, traps really outnumbered mines, but now the mine number is practically the same as the trap number. And the difference between the mines and traps is that traps, you throw the trap, and there's kind of an area of trigger effect near the traps. The enemy moves into the area, and the trap triggers, and then the enemy gets hit. For the mines, it's different. Mines, you throw the mines now. Yeah, we throw the mines now, and you need to detonate them manually. So that's the difference. Practically no other difference whatsoever for now. They are pretty close now. The only difference is that mines still need to be detonated, and traps trigger on their own once the enemy triggers the trap itself. Another important thing to understand on the traps and mines in general is there are two types of how we can play both mines and traps. The first thing is basically the natural traps and mines, and these are kind of a natural mine skills, which are like Stormblast mine, Pyroclast mine, and Icicle mine, and then you have the mine support and trap support gems, which allow you to attach any spell in the game to the mine or trap, and effectively turning any fucking skill into a trap or mine. And so there are two ways how you can play mines and traps in general. Another big fundamental difference between the mines and traps is that mines actually kind of shoot towards the enemies. That's why some skills like the GLACIAL Cascade, for example, is far superior with the mine skill than the trap skill. The trap skill, like I said, the enemy walks on the trap triggers and kind of hits the enemy. The enemy must literally walk into this area. With the mine, you control practically when you detonate the mine, and the mine spell kind of flies toward the enemy. Doesn't matter where he is, off screen, on screen, it absolutely doesn't matter. So potentially a mine has kind of a better reach, because you can actually control when it hits, how it hits, but at the same time, for some skills, trap is better. Like, for example, I really like arc traps way better than the arc mines for this reason, because trap, you just throw it and move on, throw it and move on. It's in general faster, and with some skills, traps are definitely still better than the mines. Now let's talk about the fundamental mine changes in a 3.8, and there's quite a few. The first and the foremost important thing is that we now throw mines just as we throw traps, and this is a pretty big thing because previously we just placed mines under our feet and then detonated. They were always placed under us. It was like this for eternity, but for some unknown reason, GG decided to give us an opportunity to throw mines ahead everywhere, literally, and it actually kind of the mines kind of lost their identity as a mine skill in general. They turn into traps, which would just detonate. I'm not very happy with this, and at the same time, after playing with this build for a while, I realized that it actually gives you way more flexibility, allows you to shoot off screen, and it's a pretty powerful feature, and I kind of got used to it, and it's not a bad thing in general, I think. Another big thing about the mine changes in a 3.8 is that they actually reserve mana, just like these tiny auras. When you shoot the mine, it reserves a part of your mana, and it makes it now problematical for your mana pool, simply because you do not even start recharging, refilling, you're regenerating your mana before you trigger the mine. So if you have, like, for example, 1,000 mana, and mines were always very hungry, you throw a mine, reserves part of this, and throwing 23 mines at a time requires you over 400 mana now without taking any kind of less mine reservation nodes on the tree, which makes it pretty much problematical to get more than 1-2 auras at a time when you because you need such a huge mana pool to deliver that single target damage, simply because mines reserves a shit ton of mana. Previously, you just throw the mine, you start instantly refilling, regenerating your mana, and it was way easier to handle this through different flasks, through different things. But now you actually need to have a pretty substantial mana pool, and at the same time you need to manage your reservations in a more smart, more wise way, and micromanage this kind of mana pool more precisely. Another thing that has changed is that we actually throw literally twice as more mines as before. At the same time, I believe that the damage per mine has also decreased because the new support mine skills have pretty big, less damage multipliers in them, but it all is being balanced by the shit ton of mines that we can throw at the same time, which is pretty on par with the amount of traps that we throw, and I think it even surpassed the amount of traps that we throw. So now the maximum amount of mines we can throw is 23, and a lot of extra mine nodes and mods have been completely destroyed on the tree. There's no Shaper mine mod anymore on the helm. It all went down to the actual tree and to the support gems. So it actually got better, I think, and the single target has also kind of improved, even though mines just do not detonate instantly, they detonate in a sequence now. It's also a big change. So it changed in multiple ways, but overall I think that the amount of mines that we throw is for the better. Another thing that has changed, pretty much the support mine gems, and there's quite a bit of changes that have been renamed from the mine support to the blast chain support. There's also high impact mine support, so a lot of new skill gems and a lot of changes to this existing support gems. I will not go in depth on each type of them. I will go it separately on the video and on the forums, but the most interesting thing that has appeared is the new aura called the Skitty bots. And Skitty bots are two little tiny bots that give you 10% more trap and mine damage, and at the same time they give chilling and shocking auras against them, and on top of that they can actually detonate your mines. This is pretty interesting thing, and I actually used them a lot at the beginning when I was leveling up. I just threw the mines and there was no need to detonate them because they just went to the mine and detonated it, and it, springed off, and the shit just died. So detonation by the Skitty bots was actually quite useful in the beginning of the game where I was leveling up. In the end game, you need to detonate yourself because they do not detonate that often. So you need like more firepower, instant damage. But in the beginning, they were very useful. In the later game, I just used them for the auras and for more damage. This is one of the probably the best new aura and support gems for mines in the game right now. Another interesting feature that appeared in a 3.8 Blight League is the aura tag on the mines. Some mines have aura tags on them. And when you throw the mine, it kind of creates an aura that affects the nearby monsters. There's also an ascendancy reward on the Saboteur, which also works with the auras, increasing their effectiveness by 100%, which works really nice with the high impact mine support and some existing auras like the Stormblast and some others. So this aura tag also works with the kind of aura effectiveness in general on the tree. So this gives another interesting interaction and another interesting way how you can boost your mine damage, not only through the direct damage but also through the aura stacking as well. Now we can finally talk about the Glacial Cascade itself and why I selected this as my league starter. You know what, I really wanted to try Glacial Cascade for a long time, simply because it was rumored as one of the best boss killers in the game, and I wanted to see where it is now at, considering all of the mine changes in a 3.8, and I was not doubting my choice, and I wanted to push it to the max, and God almighty, I was so pleased with this experience, guys. This is literally the strongest single target skill I've ever seen in the game, and I've played quite a lot of builds, and previously I've seen some builds and I've played some builds that could kill bosses in about like 2-3 seconds, but one-shotting the Guardians, I've never seen that, and this build actually does that. It one-shots the Guardians. 23 mines placed and detonated and one sequence, and under a second every fucking Guardian in the game just was completely dead, and I will show you this in a separate videos later on as well. What is the strength of the Glacial Cascade? One of the biggest strength is that it's actually a pretty strong skill by default. It's a fist to cold scaling spell with a shit ton of area of effect, strong damage, and the possibility to triple deep on all kind of conversions. The reason why this is so strong, like I said, is because it can scale really well. It's fist to cold, so you can scale both physical and cold. Then we convert everything from physical to cold. Then we start scaling cold to fire with a cold to fire support, and then we take all this shit ton of elemental damage and do an extra chaos damage with it through the Eternity Shroud and the Shaper items, making it 50% more chaos damage on top of it. All this combined makes it literally an absolutely insane amount of damage, and one of the best, if not the best, boss killers in the game still. If you're thinking about trying different mine skills like the Stormblast, Pyroclast, or Arc Mine, Ice Spear Mine, or the Icicle Mine, which is quite popular in this league, I can tell you that do not look any further, guys. This is the build you need, one and only, to do all fucking damage. Stormblast, I played it through to level 76. I actually started this and wanted to do a Stormblast mine with this, but it just started to fall off. The AoE just not there, the clear speed is not there. The damage is fine, minding the shit ton of power creep in the game, but the damage was just not there, and the AoE was still lacking, even though I haven't invested into AoE on this build. Pyroclast is pretty much the same as the Stormblast. Once again, pretty good, some fantastic single target damage, but AoE and the clear speed are just not there. The Icicle Mine is actually fantastic for clear speed, but it's a classic projectile problems out there. Sucks without the chain, sucks without the pierce and all that shit. The damage is fine for the AoE, for the trash, but the single target is where you start lacking. And like any projectile skill in the game, it really needs extra projectiles, chains and all that shit. and it misses the enemies. You have a lot of wandering enemies running around if this projectile doesn't hit. So it's an okay skill, pretty strong. The damage is okay, but a single target just absolutely fails comparing to this fucking triple converted monster that is Glacial Cascade, guys. So I can strongly recommend you to play this build, and you will not even look at any other fucking mine skill in the game. Alright, boys and girls, here we are in the path of building, and I will show you how you should be progressing with the build, what gear is there, what skills are there, and how you should be going with the skill tree. So we start as the Shadow, and at first I can recommend you progressing through these nodes over here with just a generic mine damage before you actually get the Eternity Shroud and spec into the Chaos conversion. So grab all this over here, grab the Trickery, and grab the Fat Blood Siphon, and start going right there and climbing on top over there to get all these juicy mine nodes like the Volatile Mines, the Successful Detonations. Grab Ridden Blood, just transition over here, start grabbing Crit early on, grab Blast Cascade, and yeah, first priority should be going over to this fat mine nodes over here on the right, which is Clever Construction, Devastating Devices, High Explosive, and that's about it. And then grab just a Blood Drinker. After you get this, just try stretching over there to the Acrobatics, because this is not a tanky build, and the whole thing that you'll be living on is dodge. There's no armor, there's no high evasion, there's literally nothing except dodge on this build, so Acrobatics is, I think, mandatory if you want to stay alive and push into 90s, 95 plus. Without that, you will just be not living long enough. For the Ascendancy, I would recommend definitely going with Pyromaniac, which is actually nerfed in the 3.8. It went down from 20% life regen to 10% per second, which is pretty bad for our Saboteur, but you can still live on with this. So the first thing is Pyromaniac, the second is Bomb Specialist, then I would definitely go Born in the Shadows. It's a pretty defensive good skill. And the last one for the Uberlap is the Explosive Expert. Since we are not playing the aura-based mines, we are playing just a normal hit non-aura mine. We do not need to take Demolition Specialist, which is a new aura-based node for the mines that actually have auras in them, like the Stormblast, for example. We're not taking this. It gives us nothing. So after we take all these things on the right side, you can get transitioning to the left side, stretching over to this, get Annihilation, get the juicy Quick Recovery, get the juicy Discipline Training, Holy Dominion, and Devotion. That's pretty much gathering just life and recovery and some extra damage. After about 90-95, it's mostly about getting more jewel nodes, and especially after 95, you'll be getting some extra jewel nodes, like over here, for example, over here and over here. It's nothing crazy, just mostly the jewels. Before that, it's mostly stacking generic life, damage, and resist to leave. That's about it, guys. For the skills, this is the main 6 link which we'll be using, which is Glacial Cascade attached to the Blast Chain support, which is the old mine support. We will be throwing after 23 mines in a row, and in general mapping you will not be definitely throwing so much mines, because you'll be throwing 5 at a time with the minefield support. But at the boss you can actually stack this amount of mines based on your mana left, and you can explode them in under a second. So the 6th link that I'm looking forward is this: Glacial Cascade, Hypothermia, Blast Chain Mine Support, Trap and Mine Damage, Cold to Fire, and Minefield. The reason why I'm not running Conk Effect and I'm using Minefield, for example, is because I wanted to get rid of this spamming thing. Because, you know, even one mine of the Glacial Cascade is pretty powerful, but if you throw 5 at a time, it guarantees you a free clearing speed. You know, you don't want to spam anything, you don't want to stop and just cast anything. You just throw these 5 mines, detonate, and keep going. You don't need to bother about anything. Definitely the damage will be like the shit DPS will be way more with conk effect and power and all of the shit. But Minefield, guys, is a utility support that allows you to really stack a shit ton of mines on a single target, as well as give you a really smooth mapping experience. Strongly recommend Minefield support. So this is it. This is two important things, which are also the most expensive things in the build, which are two Essence Worms Shaper versions, which are over 10 exalts each. And getting one is a good start, but getting two is the absolute endgame priority, and a thing to work for in your endgame setup. This is not cheap, not easy to get, and I tried to chance them myself from the unset rings and I failed. I strongly recommend you guys to just get the currency and just buy them. Do not even try to chance them, because the odds are extremely low that you ever get this thing from orbs of chance and scores and all that shit. Just not happening, guys. Just buy them. So two Essence Worms, one with Hatred and one with Zealotry, just pure fucking DPS boost. Hatred, Feast to Cold, and Zealotry just pure spell damage, because Glacial Cascade is a spell. So Essence Worm make it that this skill now does not reserve mana inserted in the Essence Worm, but at the same time it dramatically increases all other reservation for the left auras that outside of the worm, which is Skitty Bots and Precision. I'll talk about it a little later. So two Essence Worms, and if you're missing the currency, just use one normal Essence Worm with Hatred, and then start gathering currency to get the Shaper Essence Worm. And once you get enough currency to get one Shaper Essence Worm, try to get currency to get two Shaper Essence Worm, and this is where you are done with the build. The weapon is basically a dagger, and the links here is Wave of Conviction, Custom Damage, Immortal Call. The reason why I'm running this is because they still deliver a shit ton of fire damage, and we have Fire Exposure, which gives us a pretty decent amount of damage boost against bosses when we actually proc it with the custom damage taken. Immortal Call is there because I'm manually casting Enduring Cry and generating free endurance charges, also another boost that we have for surviving. On the offhand, I have my auras, which is low level precision level 1, just to get myself a little bit crit. Summon Skitty Bots, 10% more mind damage, and level 4 Enlighten, which is not really mandatory, but it's good to have. One of the trick that you can use if you don't have Enlighten and still want to throw this 23 mines is that just make it 2 link plus 1 link separate, and link precision with the blood magic, and it will reserve your precision on the blood magic and free up this flat reserve of mana to throw more mines. This is the trick. Alright, 4 link gloves, Enduring Cry, a low level to keep your strength really low. Increased duration max, Valrider's Fire for the bosses with increased duration, once again a Bad Trap. Bad Trap is actually pretty cool, but I rarely use it. I only use it for bosses to boost my damage, because enemies take 15% increased damage from trap or mine hits if they are affected by the Bad Trap. I just throw bad traps and then start landing the mines, and that's about it. That's just a chip, 1 socket, a damage boost. That's about it. On the 4 link and the helm, I have my Wither Totems, because we are like 50% extra chaos damage. Like I said, guys, this is the way the build works, because what the Treasure Shard gives us is for every Shaper item we have 5 of elemental damage as chaos damage. Since we are on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Shaper items, this is 50% chaos damage as extra. So it means that we have a shit ton of chaos damage, and Wither stacks are very important to have to get increased chaos damage taken for the bosses and all kind of enemies. Multiple totem support with the spell totem and Wither and Fasty casting allow you to stack Wither in no time. This is mandatory to have. On the 4 link boots, this is the Arcane Surge setup, kind of a mobility and utility. Low level Arcane Surge level 7, just to make sure it procs all the time. Phase Run level 1 to give you some kind of a more movement speed and invisibility to the enemies. Dash is a movement skill, also keep in mind, keep it low level because it's very hungry for dexterity. And the Stone Golem just to give myself a little bit of regeneration and sustain. Another thing which is kind of optional is a really good synergy with the build is a Withering Step, which gives elusive buff, which results in a very high dodge chance, which stacks with the acrobatics and shit. But for some fucking unknown reason, Withering Step is a blink spell just like the dash, which means that you cannot dash and Wither Step at the same time. For this only one reason, I have to stick with a phase run, because it's not a blink spell. It is a travel spell, but it's not a blink spell for some reason. So you cannot just use dash and Withering Step at the same time, and it kind of nullifies the effectiveness of the Withering Step along with this setup. So it's totally up to you to decide. You want to stack more dodge, potentially surviving better, try to use Withering Step. But it doesn't give you any kind of mobility. If you can use something else instead of dash, maybe shield charge, I don't know, maybe frost blink or whatever the fuck you can, flame dash maybe. If you can get used to this, then definitely use Withering Step. I think it's the best. But I got used to dash, and instead of Withering Step, I'm just using phase run. This is it. For the items, guys, really quick, I'm gonna go over this. So this is the weapon that I crafted live on stream, and this is a Platinum Crease based weapon. Platinum Crease level 85 plus, simply because it's the best shaper base for this build. There's 50% increased critical strike chance. This is the best ever for this type of build. What you need to get on this is a 2 Fizz as extra cold and elemental damage as extra chaos damage, as well as multi-mod with the spell damage plus the non-chaos as extra chaos, crit strike chance for spells, and global crit strike multiplier. People sell this daggers for about like 10, 15, 20 exalts, but it actually takes about 4 to 8 exalts to craft this one, so this will be your end game weapon. In my build, I personally thought that there is so much damage that I opted for a more defensive playstyle with the shield, which also allows me to potentially shield charge and use all kind of gems, which allows me to use a shield, like cold damage to spells while holding a shield, giving me more potential variability of what I can use. But if you want to really go completely ape shit, if you want to get pure DPS, you just do dual wield, and the damage will be dramatically more. Like it's 20% more damage, guys, if you want to dual wield. If you will feel like you don't need the damage, you need more sustain, more utility, more flexibility with your resist, which is a bit problematical since you are using 2 Essence Worms and the Eternity Shroud. So 2 Essence Worms means we are absolutely have nothing on our rings, no life, no resist, nothing. And resistance can be a real problem at the beginning of the game. This is why I decided I'm gonna opting for the shield, which makes me a little more flexible. So this is kind of a shield that you need to be looking for. Spell damage, crit chance for spells, +1 to all cold or physical skill gems, as well as some life and resistance. One of the best things to get over here is the socket gems have reduced mana reservation. This is a shaper based mod, and it can be from 10 to 15%. I'll get 10 here. I don't really need 15 here because I already have some free mana to spend. So this mod is probably the best you can get on this type of shield. The helmet is the Shaper helmet with this helmet enchant, which is Glacial Cascade physical damage converted to the cold damage. We're getting rid of the physical entirely, converting all to cold, then we're converting all cold to fire with the cold to fire support, and then we're taking this shit ton of elemental damage and getting chaos damage from it as well through the Eternity Shroud. This is how it works. This is probably the best combination of rolls you can get on the help with this build, which is cold damage to spells and Glacial Cascade is a spell, and at the same time some resistance on life. That's all you need. Don't need any trap and mine supports, don't need any hypothermias, just forget about it. Just get life, cold damage to spells, some resist, and that's about it. The body armor, like I said, is the Eternity Shroud, and this is a corrupted one, which I actually don't have, but this is kind of the best thing you can do for this build. This is, guys, if you are rich guy, this is a thing you need to get, which is corrupted Eternity Shroud with +2 to AoE gems. Get high max life. Make sure you have 5% of elemental damage as extra chaos. This is extremely important thing. This is the most important thing to look for on this chest. And look at this. Hits ignore enemy monster chaos resistance if all equipped items are shaper item. And this is what gives us a shit ton of damage against bosses and pretty much anything else, because bosses have 25% chaos resistance, and if we get all 10 shaper items on us, it means they have fucking nothing. Zero shaper and elder resistance at all. Alright, so talking about the gloves, these are probably the gloves you need to get with a shit ton of life, multi-mod with some resistance and syndicate damage during any flask effect. This is what you need to get if you want to really min-max things. But if you are poor like me, you can get something like this and it will not be some dramatic difference. This is the actual gloves that I have on my build. I just bought these gloves as a base. Don't forget that you need a shaper based fingerless seal gloves with increased spell damage. And I just completely chaos spam these gloves in like 10-15 chaos, and I get these mods on this, so nothing crazy. Boots, absolutely generic things. This is, don't forget, there's you need shaper items like everywhere, guys, otherwise your Eternity Shroud will not work, it will not have this crazy amount of damage. So this is the boots just to balance resists. I specifically wanted to balance my resist to go over like 75-80%, so nothing spectacular, just normal shaper boots with life and resist and 30% movement speed. If you want to go completely bonkers, you have a lot of currency, you can get something like, for example, this, which is 35% move speed, cannot be frozen, resists life, multi-mod. Up to you. If you are rich, get something like that. So the amulet, actually a couple of things that you can get. This is the exact amulet that I have for my build. Once again, shaper modded. The two most important things for this build is the global crit multiply as well as fizz as extra cold damage, and the third one, which is increased damage per intelligence, it was just there. I didn't really do anything about it. It's just good because I have 300 intelligence, so I just got this one and it works for me. Ideally you need to multi-mod this as well to get some life and resist, or for example, this is the amulet that I think I had originally in the build, which is basically multi-modded life, increaser of effect, mind throwing speed and area damage, and this is another thing that you can potentially get. But the two most important things is the global crit multi and fizz damage as extra cold. The rest is just a multi-mod. That's about it. For the anointment, which will be going away, I took Prodigal Perfection. It's one of the best things. Just read what it does: spell damage per mana and increase mana and increase spell damage. That's about it. For the rings, 2 Shaper Essence Worms. Like I said, guys, if you are poor, try to start by playing with 1 normal Essence Worm, which is kind of very cheap. And I killed my first Uber Elder with absolute trash gear and just 1 normal Essence Worm with Hatred on it. Nothing crazy, not mandatory. I had like 4 times less DPS than I have right now, and I still killed Uber Elder in under 3 minutes, deathless kill. So all of this is just the min max DPS, just to completely destroy everything. You don't really necessarily need to min max that much to do all Conan in the game. The belt is actually a couple of things. This is the belt that I have, and this is the Shaper belt on the Rustic Sash base. This increased global physical damage, which once again synergizes with the Glacial Cascade because it's a physical to cold spell. Increasing the global physical damage, we are increasing the cold part of the skill as well, so double dips. Life resistance, spell damage during any flask effect. This is a Shaper mod. This is also very nice to have, and some useful things like the flask supply to have increased effect, or just pure increased damage, like on, for example, on this belt, which I also have for the belt. This is more like min-maxed version of the belt, which gives just a little bit of more damage, but you can see it's not critical. The flasks will be in the build guide as well. This is just a really quick overview for the flasks for you, which is the Divine Life Flask, Taste of Hate, a Cirrus Promise, a Diamond Flask for the crits, a Leviana Spirit to make sure we are refilling really fast once we detonate the mines. And like I said, guys, mines now reserve part of your mana, and you can't really do anything about it except for going to this couple of nodes, which are like the only nodes that allows you to lessen the reservation on your mine skills. If you're not going there, then practically the only thing you can use is Leviana Spirit, or practically any mana flask. It doesn't matter, but without the mana flask, trust me, you will not go far. Mana Flask is mandatory to have on this build, so this is the one that I used, which is what's kind of staple Mana Flask in literally any good mine build. The two jewels that I have is just to showcase you what are the jewels you will be needing for the build, which is practically just crit multi, shit ton of damage, resist whenever you can get it, life if you're lucky, if you're rich. Get anything. There's many different type of jewels I can see here. You can track like mine damage, but basically double crit multiply with life is what you need to be looking for. The second is the Abyssal Hypnotic Eye Jewel, which is cold damage to spells, global crit life, and cold damage to spells while holding a shield or dual wielding. If you're gonna dual wield this crazy ass dagger. The Watcher's Eye is this, and there are also multiple things that you can get. This is pretty much the silliest Watcher's Eye you can get for this build, which is the most important thing is the crit chance while affected by Hated, which is a base crit chance affecting everything. Increased cold damage while affected by Hated, and crit strike chance against enemies on consecrated ground while affected by Zealotry, and we're using Zealotry in one of the Essence Worms. Another potential things you can get is something like this. Crit chance, Hatred, take percent increased damage while on the consecrated ground, and consecrated ground crit chance, something like this, something like that, penetration, all this kind of shit. And there's all different variations of Zealotry and Hatred that you can get on the Watcher's Eye, but this one, this is the one actually I have, which is kind of a cheap thing, a little more or less damage than the one. This is kind of a perfect one, but still I bought it for about 5 to 10 Exile. They are not crazily over expensive, quite affordable I would say, and nothing that crazy in terms of currency. That's about it. The last thing to talk about is the actual bandits, and like I said, we are specking mostly crit and resist a little tough because we are running 2 essence worms, and if you will not be very lucky on your amulet, it also is a bit of problem to get the correct mods on this one, so you must be lacking resistance here and there unless you are super rich. So what I did is I took Allura for the crit, region, and resist, because it helps with literally everything that synergizes with the build. So take Allura, and if you have no problems, if you are familiar with the game, if you think you will be rich enough to get a shit ton of gear, then get 2 passive points and potentially grab another jewel. Alright guys, I'm gonna show you some real action here with my actual character. So the way the build works is, you can see I have quite a bit of mana over here. I just throw mines, and I can throw up to 23 mines with this amount of mana reserved, and then it starts detonating in a sequence. So you can see it reserves pretty much everything, and then when it detonates, it kind of releases the mana pool, and it actually starts refilling. So this is the way it works. For the Arcane Search, I am pressing dash, Enduring Cry, and Phase Run manually. I actually press it manually, like 3 buttons. You hear Kiwi. I press it like this. And once in a while I get the Arcane Search. It's pretty much almost constantly there. Just on a cooldown, and then I dash, and then I War Cry, and then I kind of run in all kind of direction. This just never goes off, since this is pretty much what I spam, and this is what I have, and this is how I get my arcane surge. Whenever the bosses are there, I also have on a separate skill bar, I have my bed trap. When I press Ctrl and throw a couple of this, then I press the withering totem, then I start pressing mines, and that's about it. This is where I get 2 totems stacking wither. That is when I have my bear trap, and the monstrous takes 50% increased damage from hits on the mines, and basically from mines. This is it. This is how you explode all the bosses in the game. Now, talking about some other mines and support gems, so the default support is the blast chain support that you can see over here, which is whopping 24% less damage for the supported skills, but more damage for each mine detonation sequence. 23% mines detonating. This is like about what, 100% more damage for each mine in the detonation sequence, which greatly overlaps with the less damage and gives me a pretty damn sick damage boost. So the more mines you detonate in a sequence, the more mines you have at the same time being detonated, the more damage you actually do with this support. That's why it's so good. Another support skill gem that I briefly used while leveling is the Swift Assembly support, and it's kind of cool for the early stages of the game because it gives you the chance to throw up to 1 additional mine, 12% chance to throw up an additional 2 mines, and 6% chance to throw up an additional 3 mines, which is a big thing, but once you get the mine fill, it kind of starts to drop off and just basically surpassed by the other bigger multipliers. Another thing is the charge mine support, which is gives you frenzy and power charges, but once you get the blast cascade, which gives you once again 50% chance to get a power charge if you detonate the mine, this kind of becomes wasted again. If you are not stacking frenzy charges specifically, I do not recommend you using charge mine because the other multipliers are just stronger than this one. Another support which is kind of new is a high impact mine support, which gives you 2% chance to deal double damage to hits against enemies near the mine, and this is an aura based support which synergizes with the aura based mines like the Pyroclast, which is the Icicle, and the Stormblast mine, and also synergizes with the Demolition Specialist through Walk Ascendancy on the Saboteur, which it gives you a 100% increased effect of auras from your mines, which makes this 2% chance to deal double damage into 4%, which kind of starts beating this less damage multiplier on it. And without this thing is kind of worthless. So if you want to play with the natural mines with the Pyroclast, Icicle, and Stormblast, go for the Demolition Specialist and definitely attach the high impact mine support instead of the blast chain, and this is how it should be working. But since I don't go auras, I don't go this node, I just run a spell with each GLACIAL Cascade. It's not an aura or anything, I don't need it, and I am fine with it. Speaking about these other types of mines, which is a Pyroclast, Icicle, and the Stormblast. I actually played with Stormblast at the beginning, and it's kind of a pretty cool mine in general, but the AoE and the clear speed with this is kind of shit, so I dropped it about level 76. It does deliver some damage, it does do some damage, and it does have some AoE clearing, but it just far beyond and under the GLACIAL Cascade, just doesn't even comparable. If we compare it with the Icicle, for example, Icicle mine is really cool. It's a projectile mine, projectile based mine, but unfortunately it's a projectile and it needs chain, it needs pierce, it needs all kind of shit to make it viable. It also has a predictive, base kind of star-like detonation AoE, so it can miss things. It leaves a lot of wandering monsters around. It's just not good without chain, pierce, and all that shit. It does have a lot of damage, and it does crit very specifically high, just like the Ice Spear, but the single target is, like I said, far under the Glacial Cascade, and even the clear speed is far under the Glacial Cascade in my opinion. So in my personal opinion, Glacial Cascade is just far better than the Icicle without any supports. The Pyroclast is probably one of the coolest so far. It has the crazy amount of single target damage, and since it's also a projectile mine, it can deliver some decent AoE, but the visual cluster fuck of it, especially when you cast a lot of these mines, it literally makes it fucking unplayable for me. But this is probably one of my favorite mines so far after the rework, and if you want you can try it out, but I just stick with the Glacial Cascade because it does everything that Thief mines do, and it does still it better. That's about it. The last thing that I want to talk about is how expensive the build is and how tough it is. You see that the life pool is pretty damn low. It's 4.7 thousand, and going over 4.5 thousand is actually pretty tough thing to do. And it does look like it's very low life, and it indeed is, and it's prone to all kind of one-shot damage. If something strong hits you like the Legion, you will most likely be dead in under a second. And the only con of the build is actually it's pretty bad for delving. Delve really is about physical damage, and the build doesn't really have any ways to sustain physical damage. There's no armor, there's no wild molten shell, there's no armor flasks. You can use it, you can get the armor flasks and all that shit, but it still doesn't make you the Juggernaut, doesn't make you any tankier. So purely relying on dodging shit is a pretty squishy character. I do not consider it a glass cannon, absolutely not. 30% dodge and full acrobatics makes you a pretty nice, okay character. You don't die from everything, you not get hit that much, but it's still, I consider it a pretty squishy character and definitely not recommend it for the hardcore. As for the price of the build, the absolutely most expensive things are this two Sheeper Essence Worms, which are about 10 to 15 exalts each. I bought one for about 10 I think, and then the other one was 11 exalts. I tried to chance them out, but it just didn't happen. Just way hard to get this, so just buy them out. Everything else is far cheaper. Eternity Shroud is about 2 exalts for the base, and then you can throw Divines and then just 6ling it yourself. I don't consider it an expensive thing. Helm is nothing. I bought it actually for 50 chaos and then just threw some chaos in it, and it was with that. These boots are pretty expensive, 2 exalts, but simply because it's a cheaper base, and you just be lucky with this and get some for cheap. It's not big of a deal. The belt is like nothing, 2 chaos actually, absolute super cheap belt. The gloves, I bought it for like 10 chaos for the base and just threw some chaos in it, chaos spammed it, no big deal. The amulet is about 50 chaos to about 2 exalts for the base, and then you can craft something else on it, multi-mod, whatever you want. Not very expensive at all. The weapon is what should be crafting yourself, in my opinion, using the Aberrant and the Frigid Fossils and a 2-socket resonator. I have the full crafting session. If you need to see how to get this one, you can see it. I have a full video on how to craft this one. People sell this for quite a lot of money, but I just decided I'm gonna go and craft myself, and it's actually not very hard. If you want to go full guns blazing, completely go bonkers on the DPS, and dual wield this 2 daggers, but I opted for a shield, and this shield was actually, I think, 2 exalts once again. This is a pretty expensive shield for what it is, but overall they're like from 10-20 chaos to about 1-10 exalts, depending on the greediness of the seller. I would not say this is very hard to get. I get a bunch of them that I bought, and like this one, for example, I bought it also for like 20-40 chaos, and this one I used to run at the beginning. This was also like 20-30 chaos, I think. They are not that sought after, they are not rare, and they are not expensive as well. The rest of the gear is like nothing, this flasks and nothing, and that's pretty much it, guys. One of the last things that I want to show you guys is the trash gear that I used to kill Uber Elder Deathless. I think it was my 2nd ever attempt, and this is pretty much the gear that I used. is just absolutely not crazy. It literally is trash. And under 3 minute Uber Elder kill with just this. I will be linking this all gear in the build guide on the forums. So what I wanted to say, guys, is this is a big DPS difference between this and this, but it's not a big in-game difference. It means that you don't really need this crazy gear to do Uber Elder or any kind of content. You can do it on a way less budget with practically just this trash. I mean, the most expensive thing over here is this chest, which I bought for 60 chaos in the first week of the league. The rest is just, I don't know, doesn't even exist. Like, this is just all nothing here. Absolutely fucking junk. And the Uber Elder kill was very easy, and this is why I reassured myself that the build has a lot of potential. The setup is strong, and I want to keep going, and I want to push it and see where it is at. And my tooltip over here is 130 DPS, and when I killed Uber Elder with this setup, I had less than 30k DPS. Actually, I didn't use Tremor Rod, guys. Don't look at this. Tremor Rod was just there. I wanted to 6-sling it, but just never happened. So what I use is just this wand and this fucking stupid shield, and that's it. So my DPS was like 4 times lower than I have it now, and I still under 3 minute Uber Elder kill. This is it for the build guide, guys. I really hope that you like the build guide. It appeared to be pretty damn long because I wanted to do like a full build guide on the mines in general to give you the full understanding and full vision on the state of the mines and how they work, what is the difference, different types of things, all kind of support gems. I really hope you like this, guys, even though it took quite a bit of time to make and the video is pretty damn long. So this is what you see now is one of the very first kills of the Uber Elder I did with the trash gear that I just showed you, and it was absolutely no issue at all. Once again, thanks for watching, boys and girls. Take care and see you soon.